What's up guys, Duarte here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we are going to take a look at the best T4s for the Weapon X team. Since the whole team is now in the game and we can use all the characters together, we can be sure of which T4s are the best for the team, not only in Alliance Wars but also in different game modes. So if you like the information on this video, like always, share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content and make sure you smash that like button. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started and let's take a look at Wolverine's T4s first. So whenever we do the T4 on his basic, we are increasing the multiplier from 230% to 240%. So that's only a 10% increase. But we are increasing also the number of bleeds from 1 to 2 bleeds. So this T4 is quite complicated because it has 3 different scenarios. If we are using Wolverine on the X-Men team, because you get all the assists and counters from Psylocke and from Storm, the value of this T4 increases quite a lot. On that specific situation, this would be a 4 out of 5. If you are using Wolverine on the Weapon X team, and if you are using him as a striker, the value of this T4 is a 3 out of 5 stars. If you are using Wolverine on the Weapon X team and he is not a striker, so if he's a skirmisher or a raider, the value of this T4 is a 2 stars out of 5, because unfortunately he has a lot of cooldowns on the other abilities, so you'll have to use the basic quite often. Now let's take a look at Wolverine special, and whenever we do this special, we are increasing the damage multiplier on the primary target from 250% piercing to 400% piercing. We are also increasing the damage on the rebound chains from 90% to 120%. On top of that, instead of attacking 3 to 4 targets, we are going to attack or rebound chain attack to 5 targets. Now, I gave this T4 a rating of 4 out of 5 stars, not because of the additional piercing damage on the primary target and also on the adjacent targets, but because of the number of bleeds that we are applying. We are applying a total of 12 bleeds whenever we do the T4, and without the T4 we are doing a maximum of 5. So that's a huge difference on the bleed damage, and that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Now let's take a look at the ultimate, and the ultimate is kinda of a finishing move, and we are increasing the piercing damage from 710% piercing to 800% piercing. This is only on a single target, and it has a very long cooldown. As you can see, it's 5 energy and it only comes with 2 energy. We are also increasing the number of bleeds that we are applying from 1 bleed to 2 bleeds. Because this is a finishing move, the increase in number of bleeds that we are applying is not super relevant. And if you cannot defeat the target with a 710% damage, I don't think that 800% damage will be a huge difference. It's a 90% increase on single target, so in my opinion, I think this T4 is a 1 star out of 5. And finally, let's take a look at Wolverine's passive, and whenever we do the T4 on his passive, we are increasing the healing per turn that he has from 15% to 20%. This has increased value because of his new ability of getting 100% block chance whenever he goes below 50% health. On top of that, we are also going to get a defense up and 2 death proofs whenever he goes below 60%. So this extra increase in healing will allow you to trigger these extra defense up and death proofs quite often. So because of this, I gave this ability a 3 stars out of 5. Now let's take a look at the T4s for Silver Samurai. Okay, so on his basic, whenever we do the T4, we are increasing the amount of damage that we deal by 40%. On top of that, we are also increasing the number of bleeds that we apply whenever we counterattack on assist from 1 bleed to 2 bleeds. Now, depending if you have this character on the Weapon X team or outside of the Weapon X team, if you are using him, for example, on the Greek raids, alpha raids or beta raids, you'll get more value out of this T4. But overall, because he gives counters to himself, because he still does assists, even if he's not on the Weapon X team, and it has a nice amount of damage, not only on the multiplier but also from the bleeds. I gave this T4 a 4 out of 5. Then we have the special. The special, we are increasing the number of counters and deflects that he applies to himself, and also the number of turns that we have a defense up for himself and for the entire team, the Weapon X team. And because of all this, I gave this T4 a 5 out of 5 stars, because of the short cooldown and the amount of counters and deflects that he gets. He doesn't have the highest survivability, he doesn't have any way of regenerating his health, so these extra deflects will make a huge difference, and these counters will allow him to apply more bleeds to the enemies. Now, when we take a look at Ultimate, the Ultimate is a little bit controversial because it's a very good T4, a very good ability, depending on the enemies that you are facing. Because characters that are killed by this ability cannot be revived, this has a lot of value if you are facing Infinity Watch or other teams that can revive characters. But if that's not the case, this T4 is not so good. So if you are facing teams that have this type of characters like Nebula, like Gamora and so on, this T4 is worth 4 out of 5 stars. It's a very good investment because you are increasing the multiplier on every single attack and you are doing also one additional attack. But if it's not the case, if you are not facing a team that has characters that revive or anything like this, then this T4 is not so great and it's only a 2 stars out of 4. And finally we have the passive for Silver Samurai, and this T4 has exactly the same problem. Depending on the team that you are facing, it might have more value or not. It requires that you have the entire team. If you have the entire team, you'll reduce the chance of the enemies to assist by 25%. This is only useful against a few teams like New Warriors, Astonishing X-Men, the Infinity Watch. But if you are using this team against other teams, like for example Heroes for Hire, that have a smaller chance of getting assists, then this T4 is not so great. So if you are facing Infinity Watch, Astonishing X-Men and so on, this is a 4 stars out of 5, but if you are not facing any kind of those teams, or maybe if you are doing raids or anything like this, this T4 is something you can skip. It's a 0 out of 5. So now let's take a look at T4s for Sabretooth. And whenever we do the T4 on the basic, we are increasing the multiplier by 40%. Now, in this specific team, on the Weapon X team, this T4 is just a 1 star out of 5, but if you are using it, for example, on the Marauders, where he is called for assist quite often, then this T4 is a 3 out of 5. Taking a look at the special, we see that we are attacking the primary target and not only doing base damage, we are also doing piercing damage. And then we are attacking adjacent allies. If Omega Red is an ally, we are doing additional piercing damage to all of the targets. So this T4 has 3 levels of benefits and it's for a nice amount. Now if you are using Sabretooth on the Marauders team, this T4 is not as valuable. It's a 2 star maybe, or yeah, 2 star out of 5. But if you are using together with Omega Red, then it's a 3 out of 5, which is pretty decent with all this additional piercing damage to all the targets. Now taking a look at the ultimate not only increases the damage multiplier, it also increases the number of targets you rebound chain to. Goes from 3 to 5 to 5 to 6. So this is a huge difference. You are guaranteed attack 2 more additional allies and you are applying bleed to those allies. And because you are also increasing the level of the ability, these bleeds are going to do more damage. So from 120% to 155%. and that counts also for the 2 additional targets. And lastly, we have the passive, and the passive for Sabretooth. If you are using him on the Marauder's team, the T4 on the passive is very important. It's going to be a 4 out of 5, but on the Weapon X team, the passive has no value, so it's a 0 out of 5. Now let's take a look at the T4s for Lady Deathstrike, and on the basic, I gave this T4 a 1 out of 5 if you are using her as a skirmisher or as a raider. If you are using her as a striker, then the value of the T4 increases from 1 star to 3 stars out of 5. This is because you are increasing the piercing damage from 210% to 250%, and if the target has bleeds, then you are attacking, you are doing an additional attack. So because if you are using her as a striker, the isolate attack will also apply defense down, and therefore it has increased in value, and that's why it goes from 1 star to 3 stars depending on which isolate you have. Now in terms of the special increased the damage to primary target and adjacent targets from 160% to 200%. On top of that, we are increasing the number of bleeds from 1 to 2, and because if you kill the target, you are repeating this attack, it's good to have as high of a multiplier as possible. So you want to really apply the T4 on this, and if you kill the target, whether it is a minion, a summon, or a primary target, you will also increase the duration of positive effects, not only on herself but also on the Weapon X allies. So it's very important that this T4 does as much damage as possible, so I gave it a 4 stars out of 5. Now let's take a look at the ultimate, and the ultimate, it has a very long cooldown and it doesn't come full. Then the damage multiplier is not increased. The thing that is increased when you do the T4 is the number of bleeds, so instead of 1 you are applying 2, and the rebound chain goes from 3 to 4. Because you are also increasing the multiplier on the bleeds, it has increased in value, but because it doesn't increase the damage on the primary targets and the secondary targets, the damage multiplier is not increased. I gave this T4 only a 3 out of 5 because of the number of bleeds that you are applying. And finally, taking a look at Lady Deathstrike passive, whenever you do the T4, she'll gain 2 evades whenever her health drops below 60%. We also get this lowered the resistance of the enemies by 50% if they have bleed, but I'm not exactly sure if this part of the T4 is working. Now, I value this T4 because these 2 evades become very useful if you are using Lady Deathstrike on Dark Dimension or Raids or Alliance Wars, of course. She gets a lot more survivability, especially if we have other characters that can keep her health from going down from 60% and then back again. And because she can attack multiple targets with her special, and if she gets any kill, it will also increase the number of dodges that she has, becoming it very useful. So I gave it a 3 stars out of 5. And finally, let's take a look at the T4s for Omega Red. So if you do the T4 on the basic, you are increasing the multiplier from 260% to 320%, which is a very nice amount, and you are increasing the amount of health stolen from 5% to 10%. Because this also counts for the assist and also for the isolated attack, it has increased value, it gives him tons of survivability, so I gave this ability a 4 out of 5. It's very good T4, especially if you have him as a striker. Now, taking a look at the special only increases the damage multiplier from 400% to 450%, and because it's only primary target and adjacent targets, I don't find it as a super relevant T4, so my rate for this one is a 2 out of 5 stars. Then let's take a look at the ultimate. If you do the T4, instead of flipping 3 positive effects, you'll flip all positive effects on the enemies to negative effects. Now, unfortunately, there are not many matches where this becomes relevant, sometimes against Heroes for Hire, but against other teams is not very common. And then you are increasing the multiplier on the primary target and all other enemies from 330% to 440%. So it's a 100% increase, and because of this, the 100% increase to all enemies and flip all positive effects, I gave it 3 stars out of 5. It's a nice T4, but it's not a T4 that you must have. And finally, we have the passive for Omega Red, and when you do the T4 on Omega Red on this passive, you are lowering the damage of all enemies by 15% if you have 3 or more Weapon X allies. On top of that, you are also increasing the max health, not only for Omega Red, but for the entire team. Because most of these benefits are in Alliance Wars, I gave this T4 a 3 out of 5 outside of Alliance Wars, but in Alliance Wars it's a 5 out of 5. Very important T4. So yeah guys, that's going to be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the best T4s for the Weapon X team. You can find this infographic on my Discord. The link should be here somewhere in the down below on the infographic. Otherwise, you should be able to find the link on the description on the video. And like always, if you like the information on this video, make sure to share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I will catch you guys later.